Right now, after last night, I did find a leak in my rad. It's in the rad core. It's Mishimoto. It's not a rad that I can take to have fixed necessarily, but if I can get to the to the passage that's leaking, I can clean it all out and take it to my aluminum welder, and he might be able to weld it up. So I'm gonna go ahead and put the super on blocks over there and start to pull that radiator out and see if I can't find the actual leak using the UV flashlight and my eyes. Okay, so right there is where the coolant was leaking from. So I'm gonna remove 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the coolant passages, and I'm gonna get a moldable epoxy and cover the hole that will be there, basically bypassing the cooling sections. As you can see through the radiator, these little tubes are where the coolant flows, and the fins cool down the coolant. So I don't think it's going to make that much of a performance difference having 5 coolant passages missing from there. If not, I'll just get a beefier fan for the time being, but this will be a lot cheaper than a brand new Mishimoto rad. And when I do get one, I'll make sure that I get the receipt for it this time. Alright, so got it all removed now. Almost ready for the metal epoxy. My dad's friend, who's a race car driver, says that he used this just fine. And my dad said he basically cut a rad in half and put it back together with it. If it fails, it fails. It's not like I got my Mishimoto warranty because I didn't have the receipt. So basically gonna wire wheel those up a little bit in there, clean them with some degreaser, and get them ready for some quick set epoxy. Tools I used were reciprocating multi-tool and Sawzall with the metal blade, crappy metal blade at that. And then I used a file to get the remainder of the fins out so they can get right to the passages and get a better seal. I mean that'll be the key to making it perfect. Hopefully this will be a little better. Of course not. There we go. Nice, cleaned up. Just needs to be degreased and then welded over with epoxy weld. I mean, if you had a metal or aluminum welder, you could really weld that up pretty nice, but this is good enough for me. So after a long journey up to Cayuga to CS to meet a guy about a radiator, I picked up a new used Mishimoto radiator, but I'm still going to go through with fixing whichever one was leaking out of those dozen or so. So what I have here is like magic metal. So basically just JB Weld high heat temperature resistant epoxy putty. As I said earlier, my dad's buddy used this stuff in his race cars, so what you're going to do is you cut the tube how much you need, and you just kind of work it around in there until it's all the same color apparently, and then you smother it on to the radiator. So I'm just working it around. Try to take that metal thing off. I could be wrong about how to use this shit. The ingredients or the package didn't really say anything good about it, but or like how to use it. But basically, this is with the plastic stuff that's on the outside. It's appeared to disappear inside of this. So this was $11. If it works, it's an $11 fix. I can't see the rad missing that much of those cooling fins or whatever. It'll just basically cool off like a stock rad. This portion of the rad is where the air conditioner fans would normally be anyway too. Not to say that you don't need it, but I don't know. I'm not going to worry about it that much, put it that way. This stuff takes 1 hour to cure. I'm very skeptical about it. I feel like as soon as the engine reaches operating temp, considering it's being more stuck to me than it is the radiator. It does say it'll take 900 psi. Now, keeping in mind that your radiator is like 16 psi or something, it should work pretty well. So I'm just gonna lay that in there. The last one. If anything, at this moment, I think that the top one will fail before the bottom one. I think earlier I said if you know somebody that can weld aluminum, you might be better to take this to them and have them weld a piece of aluminum over all these open fins that you just did. But this is about 20 hours after administering the JB Weld high heat mastic epoxy. Like I said, it boasts that it can hold I can't remember how many psi, but more than what your cooling system will hold or will produce. But that's it there. So like I said, I've cut out the bad spot of this radiator. Like I said, it's also going to be a spare because I did get a new one. And I'm going to mix up another tube of this and administer it because I felt it was a little on the thin side at the bottom. So I just want to make sure that I give this stuff a good chance to bond and adhere to this rad. Right, the air is all bled out of the system now. There's nothing leaking yet. I just put the rad cap on, so I probably shouldn't be looking in here just in case it fucking bursts and squirts all over. But still don't have anything leaking yet. Or maybe I do. I don't know. I can't really tell. I'm gonna let it pressurize, and I might take it for a quick little rip down the road and see what happens. So it did not hold up. Now, if you were to weld those in, probably would work just fine. Or if I were to use the proper metal epoxy, but this thing said it would have worked, but it didn't, so it's all good though. Got my other radiator sitting over there by the garage door. Ready to go in. So, at least I tried it and you didn't have to.